Today, this critique examines the script for POV Falling into Eta Carinae, a first-person experiential video that takes the audience on a simulated journey into the Carina Nebula to observe a highly unstable binary star system. So, diving right into our feedback, maintaining an unbroken immersive illusion requires weaving necessary exposition naturally into the immediate sensory experience of the protagonist.
Yeah, think about it like sealing the hatch on a deep-sea submersible.
Oh, that's a great way to look at it.
Right? Because when you lock that door, there is an absolute non-negotiable commitment to the environment.
Like the ambient temperature in the cabin physically drops?
Exactly. The light outside the viewport fades into the suffocating, inky black, and every single creak and groan of the pressurized titanium hull reminds you exactly where you are.
It reminds you just how hostile the environment is.
Right, and in that moment of tension, as the metal is groaning around you, the absolute last thing you want is for a narrator to suddenly start reading you a Wikipedia page about the ocean's total volume.
Yeah, nobody cares about cubic kilometers right then.
Exactly. You just want to feel the crushing, terrifying weight of the water. And well, that's the exact weakness we're running into with this script. The writer has set up an incredibly strong foundation, though.
Oh, for sure. The descriptive language in the opening is genuinely gorgeous.
They use these vivid, highly poetic phrases, like they call the nebula a ragged cosmic shroud and describe the binary stars as a blinding beacon buried in the cloud.
It's incredibly evocative. It sets a beautifully haunting mood right out of the gate.
Yeah, the audience is locked into that first-person point of view. You really feel like you are inside this high-tech spacesuit, just floating in the dark.
But then we hit the issue. The script momentarily shatters this carefully crafted immersion by abruptly pivoting to a list of encyclopedic statistics.
Yeah, that part was a bit tough.
We are drifting through the ragged cosmic shroud, and suddenly the script drops lines explaining that the stars have, quote, well over 100 times the mass of our sun.
And are shining millions of times brighter.
Right. The tone completely shifts. It's a very jarring, highly factual, documentary-style delivery.
It really alienates the listener entirely from that localized, in-suit perspective that the writer worked so hard to build.
It honestly feels like you've strapped on a state-of-the-art, fully immersive virtual reality headset. You're lost in another world.
And then someone just drops a dry, heavy astronomy textbook right onto your lap and tells you to start reading.
That's the perfect analogy. And, as a writer, you have to consider how human cognition processes massive numbers versus direct physical experiences.
Right, because when we hear the phrase millions of times brighter, our brains don't actually visualize that.
No, not at all. We just file it away as an abstract math concept.
It doesn't trigger any sort of emotional response or visceral reaction. So the transition from describing this beautifully dangerous, colorful mist to reading out what essentially amounts to a stellar resume.
It completely halts the momentum of the journey.
Exactly. So the suggestion here is to approach this from a purely experiential angle. You have to translate that raw numerical data, those historical facts, into active sensory observation that are experienced directly from the traveler's perspective.
So the audience needs to feel the data, not just hear it read to them?
Precisely.
But what does that actually look like in practice, though? I mean, how do you show millions of times brighter without just saying it?
Well, you look at the suit. You use the immediate environment. Instead of simply stating the system shines millions of times brighter than our sun, describe the traveler's suit actively reacting to that overwhelming environment.
Oh, okay. So imagine writing a sequence where as the traveler breaches the inner cloud layer, the ambient light sensors absolutely scream.
Yes. The automated visor has to instantly polarize to its absolute maximum density.
You could describe the audible, heavy mechanical clunk as the blast shield locks into place over the traveler's eyes.
Just to prevent them from being instantly blinded by the glare. You see? You don't need to say a million suns if you show the technology struggling to handle the light.
I love that. It roots the fact entirely in the present moment of survival. And you can do the exact same thing with the historical facts in the script.
Right. Like the moment where the text mentions that a great eruption made Eta Carinae the second brightest star in Earth's sky a few centuries ago.
Yeah, it's presented as a fun fact, but what if you frame this as a sudden, glitchy data log pop-up on the suit's heads-up display?
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
You can contrast Earth's safe, distant, historical view of this pretty little light in the night sky with the overwhelming, chaotic reality of the traveler currently floating inside that exact same violent debris field.
Oh, that's great. It makes the history relevant to the immediate danger.
Exactly.
And building on that idea of the physical environment, we should talk about how the script handles mass. The goal is to communicate that these stars pack well over 100 times the mass of our sun.
But again, 100 solar masses is just a number.
Right. What if we showed that mass through its gravitational authority?
Like sticking your hand out the window of a moving car, but for gravity?
Exactly. Mass isn't just a number on a scale. Out there, mass is an active, pulling, destructive force.
So what if the script described the physical buffeting of the stellar winds against the suit?
Or what if you write a moment where the suit's navigational thrusters start automatically firing in rapid, desperate bursts?
Just to keep the traveler from being dragged into the gravity well? Experiencing the sheer physical gravitational violence of the system communicates 100 solar masses infinitely better than a statistic ever could.
Conveying mind-bending cosmic scale demands deliberate narrative pacing that allows the audience to cognitively process the vast distances being crossed.
This is arguably the hardest thing to get right in space-focused narratives.
Oh, without a doubt.
The sheer, unimaginable vastness of the environment is essentially the main character of the piece. But vastness is incredibly difficult to capture on a screen or in audio.
Right, and the weakness here is that the script severely rushes through its spatial transitions.
We move from the outer glowing clouds of the nebula straight to the blinding binary stars of Eta Carinae.
And then immediately zoom out to the massive lobes of the Homunculus Nebula in just a handful of sentences.
Yeah, by fast-forwarding through the journey like this, the physical structures, which the text explicitly tells us are larger than our entire solar system, paradoxically feel incredibly small and easily bypassed.
It's the highway versus the hiking trail effect. If you drive past a mountain at 80 miles an hour, it's just a shape out the window.
But if you walk up it, you understand its true size.
Exactly. The script puts us on the highway.
I want to push back on my own point for a second, though. Let's play devil's advocate. We are likely dealing with a modern, fast-paced video platform audience.
Sure.
If we deliberately slow down the pacing to show scale, aren't we risking a massive drop in audience retention?
That's a fair question.
Doesn't a slow, drawn-out journey risk boring a viewer who expects constant visual and narrative stimulation?
I hear that, and it's a vital concern for any creator working today. But pacing isn't just about speed. Effective pacing is fundamentally about contrast.
Right.
Slowing down doesn't mean stopping the action, and it certainly doesn't mean becoming boring. Look at the text. It notes the traveler is crossing light years in moments.
Yeah, that incredible, blistering speed will actually feel much more impactful, much more visceral, if it is sharply contrasted with a moment of creeping, awestruck slowness as the massive scale of the binary stars finally looms into view.
So when everything is fast, nothing's fast.
And when everything is vast, nothing feels vast unless we are forced to measure ourselves against it.
Exactly. You need narrative friction. So the suggestion here is to insert intentional narrative speed bumps.
You want to use a stepping stone approach to scale, forcing the audience to sit with the sheer emptiness and immense size of these structures before they finally arrive at the destination.
You have to make the audience work for the reveal.
Let's look at how to actually write those speed bumps. There is a fantastic line in the script right now that says, "You could fly for years without hitting a single grain of dust."
It's a great thought, but the script immediately rushes past it to get to the stars.
Instead, dwell on that. Lean into the eerie silence and the vast, unsettling emptiness of the outer gas clouds for a moment.
Let the audio drop out.
Yeah, let the audience feel the terrifying isolation of that dead, empty space before the blinding beacon of Eta Carinae finally pierces the gloom.
You build suspense out of the emptiness, and you could apply that exact same stepping stone principle to the climax when the Homunculus Nebula is introduced.
Right now, the script just immediately zooms the camera out to show the whole thing. It's too easy.
Instead, have the traveler physically navigate through a very small, highly localized portion of the glowing debris from that past eruption.
Emphasize how impossibly long it takes, how hard the suit has to work to traverse just one minor ridge of one of those two huge lobes.
You give them a relatable unit of measurement.
Right. When you tell a human brain that a structure is 100 light years across, the brain simply cannot compute that. it crashes.
But if you show them navigating a terrifying dense field of stellar shrapnel and you make them feel every near miss,
And then you pull the camera back to reveal that this terrifying field is just a microscopic fraction of the larger structure?
you've allowed them to genuinely comprehend the scale. You multiply their own immediate experience.
Anchoring cosmic volatility to a sense of immediate, palpable stakes transforms an observational tour into a compelling narrative climax.
This brings us right to the ending of the script, which ties all of these elements, the immersion, the scale, the physical environment, directly into the emotional experience of the journey.
The weakness in the current conclusion is that the immense instability of Eta Carinae and its impending supernova explosion are presented as distant scientific curiosities.
Rather than an immediate threat or an awe-inspiring reality for the traveler who is currently floating right next to it.
The text literally describes the stars as living on borrowed time and says they are destined to explode as titanic supernova.
But immediately after setting up that terrifying reality, the script abruptly transitions.
We suddenly hear a mission control voice casually announcing that the mission is a complete success and simply calling the cosmic wanderer back to Earth.
It completely deflates the tension.
It does. Consequently, this sudden recall feels unearned. It's incredibly abrupt.
It lacks narrative tension because the danger of the star doesn't connect in any way to the safety of the ending.
The protagonist just leaving because the runtime is over.
Let me throw out an alternative perspective, though. What if the author intentionally wanted to end on a peaceful, triumphant note?
Okay, I'm listening.
It is a successful mission, after all. They went, they saw the beautiful nebula, and now they are going home. Does every space script need to end in a chaotic escape?
I don't think every script does, but this specific environment demands a reaction.
Fair point.
Right now, it feels a bit like walking up to the very edge of an actively erupting volcano, taking a few scientific notes on the magma, and then having a tour guide tap your shoulder and say, "All right, tour's over. Time for lunch."
Yeah, that is a bit anticlimactic.
If you are going to spend the entire script emphasizing how violent, unstable, and massive this binary system is, you cannot end with a polite sign-off. The environment is a character, and that character is volatile.
That makes perfect sense. The setup is writing checks that the ending isn't cashed.
Exactly.
So the suggestion here is to reframe that departure entirely. You need to frame the violent, unpredictable nature of the binary system as an active, escalating environmental hazard that directly necessitates the traveler's departure.
You have to give the journey a driving, urgent purpose at the end.
So if we are rewriting this transition, instead of just casually mentioning in a voiceover that the stars are throwing off huge shells of gas into space, make it an event.
Describe a sudden, violent surge in the stellar winds. Have it physically rattle the traveler's suit.
Have the radiation flood the visual field with static, blinding the sensors we talked about earlier.
This actively demonstrates the borrowed time the system is living on. You aren't just observing the instability, you are caught in it.
And that changes the entire context of Mission Control's dialogue.
You rewrite that transition so that Mission Control urgently initiates the recall sequence because of a newly detected massive spike in the star's instability.
By making the recall a direct cause and effect response to the star's danger, that final message of "we're waiting for you on Earth" transforms completely.
It's no longer a generic corporate sign-off. It becomes a tense, incredibly relieving rescue from the chaos of the nebula.
It adds a tremendous layer of narrative satisfaction for the viewer.
Because the protagonist isn't just going home, they are escaping.
Exactly. And I think sometimes creators worry that focusing on the terror of a setting might ruin the visual beauty they are trying to showcase.
Oh, absolutely.
But true awe, what philosophers call the sublime, is a mixture of overwhelming beauty and profound terror.
Right. Eta Carinae is beautiful because it is a star about to go supernova.
By tying the scientific reality of that impending explosion to the immediate physical safety of the traveler, you provide the perfect, logical, and emotional reason for the video to end exactly when it does.
The tension peaks, the danger spikes, and we pull the ripcord.
To synthesize all of this, the material submitted here has an incredibly strong foundation and a wonderful sense of cosmic majesty. The descriptive language is already doing heavy lifting.
But to truly maximize the impact of this script, we've identified 3 key structural shifts. First, maintain a unified first-person tone by converting dry textbook statistics into localized sensory experiences felt through the suit.
Let the visor and the thrusters tell us how bright and massive the stars are.
Second, utilize deliberate pacing and narrative speed bumps to truly sell the astronomical scale of the Carina Nebula, rather than rushing through the spatial transitions.
Make the audience feel the terrifying emptiness before you show them the light.
And third, actively utilize the star's volatility to create immediate, escalating narrative stakes that drive the ending, rather than treating the danger as a distant, abstract fact.
Make the departure an escape.
The mechanics of the script just need to catch up to the poetry of the script.
We warmly invite the creator to revise the piece using these structural and tonal lenses, and to absolutely submit the updated material back to the critique for another look. We would love to see how this evolves.
Because ultimately, whether you are stepping into a deep-sea submersible, plunging into the Mariana Trench, or a simulated spacesuit falling into a dying star, the audience doesn't just want to be told how deep the water is.
They want to hear the whole groan.